Okay, so we're live. I have to ask you before we start, before the serious questions, uh, why does a guy who's a seven-figure guy like yourself, uh, world-renowned consultant, goes all in on one stock in your portfolio, which is completely unheard of and completely not traditional way of investing for high net worth individuals like yourself? Can you explain to me that mindset and why it, it kind of what made you do that unconventional move?
Sure. I mean, so they were the story has three parts. So I'm not 100% right now because I have a couple of, few other holdings as well, which is not as big as a Palantir one. But I went all in. Uh, I think in late October 22 or very early in 23, and there was a reason for that. See, if you see the time which is post
But right now
2021,
you're above
it doesn't
90%
matter
Palantir,
how.
right?
Yeah, still above 90 in my US equity account. I have investment outside that US equity as well, which is private equity, which includes SpaceX also, and some investment in India. So yeah, in my US equity, it is still my. I mean, it's very
People
high.
say I'm crazy because I have 40%. You have 90%, and I mean that's wild. So tell me the
Yeah.
story. How it happened?
So one thing is that, see, when the stocks goes low as they have gone in the recent downturn, see, practically diversification doesn't help if everything is going down in the same way. Okay, if you have 20 stocks and 20 stocks are all everything going down, so at that particular point, my view was that out of this holding, which is the safest holding, which has higher probability to go up. Okay, I mean, I always trusted this company not to go bankrupt. It was lowest on multiples. It was, in my personal opinion, has one of the strongest most in moat in data. And yeah, I mean, it was expected to go few folds higher. So I just, I mean, took losses on every other positions and invested in it. So that was a very simple. What inspired me to do it is, I have always pondered this question several times, that when and why you should go oversize in a particular stock. And most of the investors I follow, they have done it at least few times in their career, including Warren Buffett. Okay, and the story that particularly impressed me was there was an incident between Stanley Druckenmiller and George Soros. I think it was a position that Druckenmiller was very certain, and he said that I want to go 100%. He was a bit surprised at whether Soros will entertain that or not, and Soros told him that, I mean, if you are that certain, you should not go 100%, you should go 200%. Okay, so I have seen several of very good investment people, and everybody has a different motivation. So that was the second part. The third part for me was why I am investing. Okay, I have a certain retirement goal. Okay, my understanding is that once I reach that, beyond that point, I only do investing in my life. Okay, I'm still kind of semi-retired. I have not done full-time jobs. I'm still consultant to a couple of companies. There are times when I work, but so I have a particular goal. Okay, I'm not a kind of a guy who's looking for retirement in 65 unless I would have invested everything in index that I have done for a long portion of my life. So that's pretty much the three part of that story. So it was not a high risk, because when you go all in or overweight in one company, what you are increasing is the company risk. So that is one portion you need to see very closely, that do you really have a good understanding and handle of that. So I personally felt I have a good handle of that, uh, and I was okay. I mean, what the company risk Palantir carries, so that kind of motivated me.
Did you see
Back to you.
anything specific like in the technology that made you so adamant about this company? Because you are a consultant. Your entire business is evaluating technology and specifically innovative technology. So you've seen a lot of bullshit in your life. So what made you
A
understand
lot.
that
I mean,
Palantir
even
isn't bullshit?
um, see, I work in oil and gas. Now predominantly broad energy and sometime even outside energy. But if you see my first 15 years of my life, I was practically working in oil and gas and upstream. So I understand the industry. I have led large scale projects in Malaysia, in India, in Africa. Okay, so I understand how works. I have pitched several projects for investment. I have presented projects for investment in front of banks, raised money, evaluated a large number of projects. So I have a little bit sense that, okay, how the project works, what is achievable, what is not achievable. When the digital transformation first wave started, that was in 2013, 2014, when companies will start asking, okay, what we can do, which was funny in oil and gas, because oil and gas is asking this question for last 30 years. They have been digitizing data for last 30 years and it's been lying somewhere. Okay, people forget that before big tech, big oil was the big thing. They had the most money. So during that time, I came across this example where I learned that in BP, which I always feel, I mean, BP always has a very high regard in terms of accessing to innovative technology. That BP, they actually implemented production optimization using digital twin with Palantir, and they actually managed to reduce their lifting cost, which is one part of cost, by $8 per barrel, which to me is unheard of. So there are a few things which kind of caught my attention. The first thing is BP being a pioneer in industry, they said themselves that, okay, this is a kind of a shit we don't understand well. We need to go someone who is an expert. While everybody else kept telling, oh, we know this, we know this. Okay, now Palantir had no clue about oil and gas. BP says, we want you to do this. And I know this because, I mean, I have shared this now with several of my BPX, I mean, including the CDO of BP, who was my colleague in Schlumberger. After he has done this, his name was, I think, Gavin Goodline. I mean, very, very likable guy. He taught me a lot in digital strategy. So what was happening is that since they don't know that what is happening in oil and gas and how the process works, they said, give us data. Based on data, they mapped how the process is working and what they can do. And it was, in words of some of the BP employees, was kind of eye-opening. That was like kind of a first glimpse to at least few of those guys that there is something special in this. Okay, lifting cost from $14 to $6, I have never seen any company has ever done in offshore. If someone achieves $1 or $2 drop, I can tell you that's a very big success. See, think from this point of view, Tom. If you have a million barrel production, you save $1, that is a million a day. That is 365 million. And that money is not only like, you're not just saving that cost, you're also optimizing your reserves. So you're also incrementally your reserves by 1 to 5%. Okay. You are, so, and the moment you do that, people say, okay, so what? It's 1% or 1.5% or 360 million. People don't understand that it affects the cash cycle. That means if I have extra cash every day in my pocket, I will deploy that cash in high pursuing opportunity. So there is a flywheel effect that yeah, in a lot of things. So
make you money and make you produce more oil.
Yeah, and you actually develop a competitive offering relative to your peers. So it's more than 1 or 2%. Like, for example, I mean, there's a very famous interview where somebody is asking, I think it was Rubinstein who was, or somebody else was asking Jeff Bezos that, you are telling me that you are reducing the margins, but you are also increasing the profits. How is it possible? Because if we reduce the margin, we lower the barriers, people buy more, people buy in shorter. So the cycle, the cash cycle, we are increasing the cash cycle returns. Okay, so it's pretty much same. So that was something I caught in my attention. Okay, at that particular time, I wasn't deep in digital strategy or digital sector. I was reading about it. I was very deep into the oil and gas sector in general and the software and the database architecture that the industry follows. So when I came to Boston Consulting, I got involved in a lot of digital transformation project with very large companies. We have to deploy, and that is where I start learning more and more about it. I started interacting with more people, and eventually, like after 3 years, due to some fortune, Schlumberger asked me to come back, that if I could join them as their data strategy lead. Okay, and I went back to Schlumberger. It was in October 2021. It was during the COVID time. I was there for 2 months. I personally felt I don't want to move to London. Sorry for, I no offense for people living in London, but I discussed with the president of DNI. I kind of skipped it, came back. Shlamajan and BCG were both supportive. Uh, I started working part time with BCG. Then Shlamajan came back. They said, we still want you to finish the work. And I still ended up working with them next year also in the data strategy. So this particular time, I was focused entirely on data strategy for a large company, just 65 billion market cap. Shlamajan is a very special company to me always. I met with a lot of companies, with their partners. I cannot name, but yeah, all the top data companies. I met few of them, discussed like we wanted to build some partnerships and all that. That gave me very good insight. So sometimes like you meet a company and they say, "Ki, we want your partnership because you can do this, we cannot do this." So that kind of give you an idea that what's their strengths are. So during that time, I kind of build up and tested my views with different companies. I left. Of course, you live in the ecosystem. It's very fair to say you learn more about Microsoft, Google, Azure. Shlamaja partnership with them, with in past with Google and currently with Microsoft is known. You work with the. You literally meet all the companies. There is you meet a lot of startups also. So that gives you an idea. Okay, what a company does, and most important part is that you understand that okay, they are working together for what. What are we trying to achieve here? Because you are next to C-suits and they will tell you we want to get this done. So it's no longer about building a data lake or building something else, but it's about getting how to improve my business. So you see, you can sometimes zoom in because I'm a very hands-on guy. If you put me in a project and you want me to do some simple coding, I can still do that part. But if you want me to take a step back on business problems, so that was my impression, that during all of those exercises over the years, interacting with so many people, having seen so many digital transformation, I came across that Palantir is quite unique. Okay, so I have to be very careful here. I felt it's very unique. That was my
It
impression.
reminds me a lot of the people who work in the airline industry who had similar conversations with me, but instead of BP and oil, they were talking to me about how how for them it was impossible to conceive how somebody could drop the delivery, production, and the assembly of the A350 by 30% and still raise the quality assurance levels of the units that were being shipped. That was literally impossible. That's what they told me before Palantir. So I had a lot of airline people like you that came in and said, "Hey, we are like heavily invested in the company because what we saw from Airbus, because that wasn't possible."
So that is the most important part, is because see, in industry there are norms. People have spent their career and their view is we know it better than you, so don't tell me it can be improved. And when you work in enterprise sector, there is a lot of passive aggressiveness, especially like for example, when you work in oil and gas is a very alpha culture. Don't tell me. These people used to run the lobbies for big politicians. They control the geopolitics. So it's when you have to pass the message across, it's a very different kind of conversation that you have. So I was seeing that, and there was a one very particular incident happened. So this is one of my colleague who's supposed to become a CEO of a very large company, and we were discussing. There's a discussion around digital strategy. I was supposed to help her on a paper on AI for the board, and this is before ChatGPT era. And she was asking my views and partnership, and I asked that I think Palantir could be a good partner. I said, I invested with them, I follow them, this is what. And then she told me that she is on the board of one of the mining company, which very large, one of the world's, some of the very large mining companies, and they use Palantir, and she has heard very good thing about it. So when you like start talking in industry with people, you generally hear good things. Okay, there are companies you don't hear good things also. Okay, people still buy them, I buy them, but I know, they are not, people don't want to deal with them. It's just that their product sometimes is so good. So Palantir, I started hearing good things, and one thing was coming again and again, that the reason they were brought on board, there was something really complex to solve. They were trying to solve it for some time. So this whole idea of tackling complexity is coming across. So this is why over the years I built the view, and I always say that Snowflake is something which has mastered the art of simplicity.
I saw that
But
tweet. That
Palantir
was
is something
brilliant.
which is not.
I saw that tweet you
Yeah.
posted. Yeah, yeah.
So which
I'm
is,
gonna bring it up. Hold on.
yeah, because see, for me, I mean, I have to coin these kind of sentences because I have to pass my message to a C-suite executive within 30 seconds. So that was my impression, and I mean, I love both companies. Okay, there are a lot of companies I love. Okay, but at that particular time, I felt that it is probably a better bet. And of course, like whenever you do investment, there is always some risk, and I kind of accepted those risks. So yeah, I mean, I said if I have to walk through with this downturn, I'll just go through with the Palantir on board.
So
Okay, back to you.
I want to go to the next question because that's the one thing that keeps coming back. No matter how much we speak about it, people always come back and talk about the complexity of the product, the lack of understanding by retail community of what Palantir does exactly and why they're better than the competition. It's not as easy as as a car. Like with Tesla, it's quite evident you can ride in the Tesla. They don't get a lot of hands-on experience. So we obviously, what Palantir does, they build operating systems for big tech. But the question to you, as somebody who understands these things, what exactly is an operating system? Operating data system is for big tech, and out of all of them, which I assume Palantir doesn't, Foundry isn't the only one. Why Foundry is so much better than the offering in the market?
So Tom, I think very good question and rarely asked in the context of Palantir. And please bear with me because it will have slightly longer answer. I just want to assure that I get it right. Okay. So see, we say a lot of time. Okay, everybody says, "Oh, we are doing digital transformation." People are saying, "Oh, we are deploying C3 AI. We're deploying Snowflake. We are deploying CrowdStrike." So what does it mean? What actually people are doing? What they are building? You have Microsoft. You have AWS. So the common term we say is that at the end of the day, we want to run our enterprise and all business process in a digital manner. So this is what very a broad definition of enterprise operating system. Now, what does it consist? And this is where I'm not sure that FinTuit community, 90% of FinTuit community actually understand. So let me just take a while. So think about like an x-axis. Okay, now this x-axis has different layers. So what an operating system consists of, an enterprise operating system? There are a few things it has. Okay, first thing, it has to have a data platform. Okay, now data platform could have a lot of different small buckets in them, which is data QA, QC management, catalog, anonymization, access protocol, master data, data analytics, application storage, event processing, data injection, ETL. I mean, there are like tons of things, and this is where a lot of companies plays, which predominantly we know as Snowflake and Databricks. Now, this is just one layer. Now, in addition to that, you have other layers. Another layers includes like DevOps layers and API layers and smart business layers. Okay, or infrastructure where hyperscalers plays, or security where CrowdStrike and Cloudflare plays, and edge processing. There is an edge infrastructure. There is core ERP companies where S&P and all those plays, and then you have like OEMs have their own tech, which is like, for example, if you go to ABB, they have their own tech because it's kind of in a kind of a symbiosis with there. So there are like tons of these boxes, and there are like tons of sub boxes to that. Now, out of these boxes, there is, so you see there are like, so if you have to put like lift and shifts, business layers, you have like API, DevOps, data platform, infra, security, edge processing, core ERP. So this stack is what we call enterprise OS. Okay. Now, what part of Palantir plays? Palantir plays across all of it. What part C3i plays? C3i plays only in a smart business layer. What part Snowflake does? Snowflake plays in data platform. What part Amazon plays? Amazon is first giving you the infrastructure in terms of like private cloud or public cloud or outpost, what you're looking, and some data platform, some DevOps and all that. What part Harness plays? Harness plays entirely in CI/CD lanes in DevOps. So this is where people don't understand that what does when we say like end-to-end enterprise OS, because it is everything. Now there is one more difference. So what I said, that so many things and you can play across it, but how you play, That is the different dimension, and that is where we can look something on like another axis of it. Okay, because for example, if you take a company like Schlumberger has their own stack, but they only play in energy. Okay, then there are some companies which could be a little broad, like for example, you go to CRM doesn't play with energy, but it plays a large number of industry. But CRM, you don't need CRM solution. Okay, so that is where, and then like for example, if you go to AWS, it doesn't matter whether it's energy or it's large number of industry or it's an individual user. So how you play, where you play, what you play, that's kind of a landscape that comes in. So I saw that Palantir plays in all of those units, and to be honest, it comes with some restrictions. Okay, but because they control the stack, they remove a lot of friction between these things. Okay, and that's where the skill comes in. Then the second part is how they play in this, that creates the moat. Okay, so there are two things, and this is where, if you tell me that what Snowflake does is what Palantir does, I disagree, because there is always some overlap is going to be. Okay, but if you did, so you get the cloud split from Snowflake. Okay, how you are going to deploy AI, you need some partner to do that. Okay, so Snowflake has a large scale of partners. So now think about it, it's very simple. If you want to go far and if you want to solve complex problems, do you need people with singular focus and goal, or do you need people with 20 different focus and 20 different goals? Because if Snowflake is working with Dataiku, both companies have their obligation to their shareholder to maximize their value while working with partner. So there is always going to be, so when there are a lot of partners, what you work with is minimum viable agenda. Okay, so that is why a lot of do-it-yourself solutions doesn't work out, and there is a reason for that. Like, question is like, why, if that is the case, then why everybody is doing it? That's a very common question to us. Gartner did a very famous study in which they said that 87% of digital transformation, they don't create any value at all. So the question is why people are doing it. So the reason for that is that if you go back in 2014-15 and say you are a large company, you want to do digital transformation, so what will you do? You will go and you will say, let me hire some people from Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. Then you bring these people in and then you say, tell me what to do. So these people will say, because their career was always, when there is a problem, they need to write the code. Their career was not, if I have a problem, I can buy something. It's not their DNA. So when this company, and let's say this is an industrial mining company, they hire people from Google and they say, wanna build, they say, we need to build data lake. We need to build this component, that component, because that's their DNA. They don't think for a second, why don't we buy something ready to use? So that's why in the first phase of digital transformation, everybody was building things and everybody was failing, because at the end of the day, how can you compete with something which is done on a very professional basis? So that's where I started having a thinking that, okay, when I'm looking now in terms of longer race, who is going to win? People who are going to win, they are creating maximum values. Who is creating maximum value? How you create value? That you need to solve complex things and you have to solve those things faster. So for example, when you take the case of Ukraine, you don't see Snowflake solution being deployed there. There is no time for anyone to test 20 things to work together. When you take the case of COVID onset, nobody was saying, oh, we are having this 40 partners, we are working them together to build a system that can help us build this PPE distribution. They say, no, we need something that is working on the ground today. And so the moment you put that kind of constraint, there is only one company. Today, like, everybody can say, okay, now Fox Globe is saying we need to kick Palantir out, we need to bring people in and build this. Yeah, I mean, you can spend next 20 years building things, or you can use what you have. So you have to make, as a business person, you have to, are you in a business of making, is Schlumberger is in a business of making data platforms, or is it in a business of serving oil and gas services? So people have to, at some point, have to make a call, and more and more people will say enough is enough. Okay, let's take something that already works and that has an edge. So that's my bet on Palantir, that in longer term it will succeed, because it is helping you to reach value faster, and it is helping you to reach value in a lot of complex cases where many have failed. Okay, back to you.
So, based on what you said right now, it almost sounds like they're headed to a quasi monopolistic position in this industry, because with the exception of perhaps Fabric, right, that tries Microsoft Fabric, there's no other players right now in this market. So I'm wondering, for you, a guy who has a lot of experience, a lot of money in this company, a lot riding on this company. So what are the milestones that Palantir needs to hit, let's say in the next 5 years, to be on track for that $1 trillion market cap valuation?
Okay, again, I think very good question again, Tom. I mean, like, so first thing is, so I hope I probably have made a case that why this company is a bit unique. Okay, and I'm trying to use the word unique and not trying to use. So there is a difference between being unique and being monopolistic. So they have everything in terms of product what they need to become a monopoly. That part is done. Okay, but you, in order to become monopoly, you have to sell it, and that is where your go to market strategy comes. So think about this, Tom. Say you are running a YouTube studio. You need a small piece of hardware. You don't have to think twice. But if you have to decide ki, oh no, I need to move everything to a different room, all new hardware, that's a little bigger decision. Okay, so when you are going to go with a partner for which you have to have a thick stack going across it, you have to kind of agree and admit as an organization that what we have done in past is not working. There is a friction that comes with it. Okay, also enterprises are known for their passive aggressiveness. Okay, you go to a CDO or you go to anybody and you say, okay, we are going to deploy ontology. They say, okay, he will not tell you what is ontology. A lot of people will say, okay, no, we are just going with the advanced cloud with Snowflake. People are hiding their own weaknesses. Another thing, in a lot of organization, the hiding of information and compartmentalization of information is feature, it's not bug. So for example, if you are in a PSU and you have to spend 100 million, that 100 million is power. You do not want people sneaking around how that 100 million is deployed. So thing is, when you will deploy these kind of solution, there is going to be an internal friction part. Now there is some friction which is in the organization. That means Palantir may not be able to sell in organization A, but will be able to sell in organization B because that was. But then there is some friction which Palantir has to solve by themselves. So if you remember, like Shyam said, that Palantir will have an AWS kind of growth in the year, in this particular year or in this decade. That's what he said, something like that. Now, if you take that particular view, so what is AWS type of growth? Let's just dissect that part. AWS grew. Everyone knows it created industries. I mean, Netflix is entirely built on AWS. This whole streaming thing. Okay, that means you are going to provide solutions which never existed before. You are going to provide companies, or you're going to brew companies which never existed before. So that is what it means when you say like something like an AWS kind of a growth. Okay, Palantir has exceptionally complex use cases demonstrated in public. We always see in FoundryCon and AIPCon. Palantir is very niche in terms of their solution, but Palantir has yet to prove itself as a company that can beat earnings and growth in a big daddy way. AWS is not like this by 20% growth or 25% growth. There were years where AWS 100% growth. Okay, so to me, like the first of the big milestone that I'm looking for Palantir is, yeah, I mean, for the time being and given the macro, for the time being 20-25% is okay. I mean, even before AIPCon and their bottom, they were doing 17-18%. So with AIPCon, with more solutions, I mean, if they don't do 40% at one point of time, I'll be very disappointed. And in that particular case, I will only make responsible the team because they failed to execute, because there is a demand.
But there's no way it doesn't happen.
Okay, so
If you look at the funnel, right? So there's a lag from the entry point into the funnel, which is like APCon or the pilots. So there's like a 3-quarter lag until you see the revenues growth. So we probably see this in Q4, the beginning of the all the AAP mass.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm giving you an end of 2025. I'm okay. So
Okay.
so sometimes you don't see the exact milestone, but you see the trend and you see where it is going. I also expect that with AIP, they'll somehow able to compress that funnel. Okay, so what is taking uh, 18 months with Foundry, it's with AIP, it should be done in kind of a 6 months. And there is more awareness now. Okay, now if you go to 2020, and like when I was writing this board paper for AI, I mean, I even have to make people understand what does it mean at times. So for example, I made this example. I said, do you really? So everybody was, so everywhere you go, everybody says, oh, we have this dashboard, we have this, we have that, we have this analytical platform. My question to them was always like, do you really need it? So we spend so much money, we really need it. You really need it. Why you need it? Because it helps us in making decisions. So I said, that's the point. You want to make decisions. You don't need this platform. So now if somebody makes that decision for you, would you take it? Said, what do you mean? I said, like, for example, you have to make 100 decisions, 95 of those decisions are low value. Somebody takes that decision on behalf of you with a certain quality. Do you really need to care about that? And for the remaining 5, do you need to see dashboard, or do you need to understand these 5 decisions? These are the options, these are the trade-offs. So that's the role of AI. Now, what LLM and ChatGPT has done for everyone is they made it visible for even a common person that how to consume AI as a simple product. So now, like, suddenly everybody is so excited. Okay, now we understand. Okay, ChatGPT is doing this. Can it do it for my? So for example, if you say you are in PwC and you say PwC release every year very detailed tax guides for every country. Okay, and now let's say PwC put everything on a ChatGPT. So now you are asking ChatGPT, which is PwC ChatGPT, and you go back and you ask, okay, tell me countries which have less than 10% capital gain tax. You don't have to ask Google about it. Okay, so when you ask something Google, lot of time you have to validate the information, but now you are talking to PwC. So for example, you take the case of CRM has this Einstein GPT. There's a whole company Perplexity which is built on the accuracy of information. So what has happened now is that suddenly people have more understanding what does it mean to consume AI. So the whole cycle, I don't have to sell you now that do you need AI or not. You know it already, you need it. Because your board is already asking you what you are doing in terms of LLM, what you are doing in terms of ChatGPT. So there's a lot of, so that 18 months I used to spend earlier, that time has to be shorter now. So they have to show that this cycle of 9 months, what they have, that as they move forward, this cycle has to shrink. And that's what a good company does. And yeah, I mean, that's what I said. I mean, no issue on products. Okay. There is a lot of improvement in GTM they have done. There are a lot of improvement in PR and positioning they have done. Okay. There's a lot of good lobbying also at times. Okay. There is also very good ideological and thought leadership at times as well. Okay. They are not shy. Okay. If taking a stance on controversial issues at times. So it's at the end of the day, it's about just how to sell more. Back to you.
So I want to take a question from the audience. It's in Russian. I have a big Russian audience, as you can imagine, Sachin. So I will read it in Russian and I'll translate it. It's a twofold question from Murat. Murat is asking, чем занимается Palantir? Essentially, what does Palantir does? And then he follows it up with a little bit of a jab. And he says, мы вкладываемся в то, что не можем сами себе объяснить простыми словами. Which means we invest in what we cannot explain to ourselves in very simple terms. So you understand the jab he's taking here towards the company. And
yeah,
I'll let you take this and then I'll add my own little salt and flavor on top of your answer.
See, if I have to simplify what Palantir does is actually very simple. Palantir uses all the data that you have ever acquired and try to solve very complex problem that your business is suffering or help you to build new businesses. That's pretty much all it does. It doesn't matter you take, I mean, a case of Gotham or case of AIP or case of Foundry, but this is exactly what they are trying to do. A lot of people can do it without Palantir, but the number of solutions you need to do it and the number of complexity to build such a solution, okay, to me that's a little higher, and that's an added complexity. Okay, back to you.
I want to give some real life examples because I feel like those are always, the best to kind of showcase the value of what Palantir does. And I feel like the easiest part is when we use I always use the Airbus test cases because they're so easy to understand because we all use the product, every day, and it's kind of easy to understand. So I want to show Murat what exactly does Palantir do, and I just want to explain that what we're showing is kind of showing iPhone 8. Palantir's at iPhone 15 right now, so I'm showing you like the 2 generations earlier. They're like way ahead of what I'm going to show right now, but that's just kind of to give you an idea in a very simple terms, like you asked. And I don't disrespect your question; it was a valid question. So here's what I want to show you. So this is I'm going to pull up this tab, and we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to use Sachin's expertise also to explain. So this is a tab that shows you a test case that's coming from Skywise, which essentially shows you what Palantir does, right? So what you see here essentially is a diagram, right? This diagram shows you a certain occurrence, right? So basically, they're showing you the behavior, right, of of an engine in a descent. When the airplane descends, so there's a cooling that's going on by circulating the fuel, and that cooling basically is enhanced, and the more fuel is used when their temperature rises too much because a certain component is malfunctioning, and eventually that component basically breaks. Now, what I want to show you here is that when this component breaks, if you haven't fixed it on time, this would be the difference. I want to pull it up on the screen. So this would be the difference. If you've actually fixed the component preemptively, right, the repair cost would be $18,000, right? And they show you the amount of events per year that happened for this airline. And basically the total minor repair cost they had was $222,000 for that airline, for that specific little component, right? Before Skywise came in, before Skywise basically Foundry, right? They had to basically the engine, that engine part, the IGG, basically broke, and they had to do overhaul repair, which essentially cost way more. And then the overhaul repair cost would be $684,000. So right now, by doing this little software identification preemptively before the big overhaul happens, your repair costs $200,000 instead of $700,000, and your airplane is not on the ground for as long amount of time for the long repair. It is basically replaced while the airplane unloading and loading people into it, et cetera, et cetera. So the AOG, AOG means airplane on the ground time, is basically reduced. The cost of repair, the time of repair reduced, and the safety is increased, all with the software that identifies ahead of time what's happening. So I hope that kind of explain you in simple terms what's the value of what Palantir is doing. And we can find this value across multiple planes, literally, because in the case of Skywise, it's not just fuel efficiency, it's not just scheduling efficiency, it's also safety. It's also safety, and it's not the coincidence that while Boeing is having a lot of safety issues and quality issues and assembly issues and engineering issues, you haven't heard the peep, not even one peep from Airbus. Their planes are basically completely, on track, nothing, no malfunctions, no bad PR, no crashes. And Airbus has been working with the Skywise for almost 10 years now, and you see the results. So if you needed a quick explanation, something very, very simple that shows you exactly what they do, what the value, this is it. And now the crazy part about this, Murat, from the audience, is that I got those charts from somebody who works in a massive airline. one of the biggest in the world, who works on Skywise. And he told me, hey, I use this every day. I watched your videos. I just wanted to show you how right you are in what you're saying. And I just want to let you know that since I started working on these things, I've become a hardcore Palantir investor because I saw what Skywise can do. So he had a similar experience to you, Sachin, basically experiencing firsthand and becoming a Palantir evangelist. So I hope this answered your question. And so, Sachin, quick, let's do rapid style. I need you to answer this question in less than a minute. Can Palantir grow to $1 trillion? Yes or no, and why in less than a minute? I know it's I gave you a curveball. I understand. I understand, but you have to take it.
Yes, Palantir can grow to $1 trillion. Okay, most likely by 2030 or 2035, as long as they manage to cross the revenue, which is somewhere close to 40 to 50 billion dollar, and free cash flow at least 15 to 20 billion, and we are in a interest rate environment that is not more than 3%. Yes.
Next question. I want to put you on the spot again. I'm a huge Elon Musk fan. I'm a huge Alex Karp fan. I almost went to war over Alex Karp unnecessarily yesterday. I love them both. I ranked them in the top 3 with Jensen CEOs. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between Alex and Elon, and like where would you rank them in your top 3 CEOs of all time?
Elon is definitely on the top. I mean, across all the CEOs I have ever seen. Okay, and there is no doubt about it. I mean, growing up in 19s, I had huge respect for Bill Gates and Steve Jobs during those days. What I know about both of them and what they have done in now, I think Steve Jobs is something I have tons of respect. But I mean, like in terms of building businesses, building products, definitely. I mean, I keep him after after Elon for sure. Okay. Alex, I wouldn't call my third, but definitely in my top 5. Okay, he's. I haven't seen a CEO like him. Okay, I want to be very clear. Alex is not Elon, which is good. Okay, Palantir is not Tesla, which is also good. Tesla is, if you ask me, like in terms of brand equity and like the personal contribution, I think Elon and Tesla is way ahead. Okay, I can cover that later, but I mean, Alex is very different because, see, I have seen several kind of CEOs. Like you have the CEOs who build these companies who are always like this Iron Man kind of a maverick. Okay, we have seen like how they grow over the time. You see, I mean, Larry from Oracle. I mean, you have seen Steve Jobs. You have seen what happened with Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, Elon. So that is one category. Okay, the second category of always these career executives who grow through their career and they become like a Wall Street darling because they came from them. They're part of a club. They have the right institutions. They have the right MBA. They sit in the right clubs, and I mean they just speak the right language. And a large portion of them are pretty useless also. But yeah, I mean that is the second categories. Okay, so this is first time I'm seeing a CEO. Okay, so he has actually founded a company in some way, and he is part of that core team, but he's not like a tech CEO, but he's so inherent to the mission of the, so the mission is the core of it, and he understands it so well and he communicates it, and this is very difficult to communicate and take a position, and he does that. Okay, so yeah, it's quite unique. I haven't seen anybody like doing that. I have seen people taking stands on social topics, but a lot of them just take social stands based on either their political leaning or what is the popular narrative. Okay, Alex is very consistent. I mean, even if I go back and I try to listen his very first interviews until now, I mean, he is
Same.
extremely
Yeah.
consistent person. So yeah, I mean, he's actually definitely one of my, I mean, top 5 CEOs. Okay, um, he so the reason is why he is not in my top 3. Okay, he understand mission of company, the product, what they are trying to do, but at least in early part of his career he was not a kind of a 9-dimensional chess player like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs is. Like how to touch the nerve of the people to sell the product, how to make him like impossible possible. I think that is where um, I would say Elon Musk is definitely very different. Very, so it's a different league. And I know, I mean, like people who invest in Palantir. I mean, there's a lot of this discussion, but guys, I mean, Elon Musk and Alex Karp are two different person. In my book, Elon Musk is way above league. Okay, but Alex Karp is also in a league of his own. Back to you.
Well, Elon is about to hit $1 trillion valuation on one company, and he has another one which is private, and God knows when it goes public again. It's,
Yeah.
he might have two companies that are in a trillion club by the time it's all said and done. The one thing I'll say
So
about Karp is I think he doesn't get enough credit because look, we don't think enough about how difficult it is to build a $1 billion company from scratch. Definitely not to build a $50 billion company from scratch. Definitely not a company that goes against the grain and doesn't play the politics game in the same way as the others, and definitely not one that is self-imposed, geographically constrained. I think that there have been a lot of questions. We talked about that. I jumped the gun a little bit on the jumping on somebody's neck, but I think in general, the whole discussion of what happens if Alex Karp leaves, I think it's an irrelevant discussion because I don't think he leaves anytime soon. I think that Alex Karp to Palantir is equally as important as Elon Musk to Tesla, if not more.
yeah, I mean, I agree because, like I said, because the company is driven by mission, and he kind of embody that mission like anything else. I think one thing I have to make it very clear, like so, like one of the reason like I keep Elon such higher is because Elon has built companies in industries that never existed. I mean, like for example, if you are building Palantir, you have like okay, AWS. There are some building blocks. Okay, but Elon built things where no road was ever built, and everybody was batting against him, and the whole world was against him. Okay, he was short of capital. Okay, Palantir never ran out
Fact.
of capital. Okay, I mean, so yeah, I mean, Elon is a whole different league. Okay, and to me, I think I have never seen any executive like him. I know there's a lot of heat Elon has to take nowadays because of his political statements at times and positioning. But guys, I think Tom, you and me have lived enough life to understand a person without its political leaning as well. And yeah, I mean, Elon is special. There is no. I mean, I can take that kind of maverickness and bullshit activities if somebody can change world and industries like that. I think, yeah, I mean, I'll give them a pass. Back to you.
So we spent 3/4 of an hour talking about Palantir, but I haven't asked you if you're looking at potential other plays in the stock market, other companies you're excited about, because you're so identified with Palantir. We never talk about any other companies, but is there anything right now on the horizon that excites you that's not Palantir?
There are a few themes I have in mind which I am working. So, of course, I mean, Sophie excited me. Sophie, not Sophie. I mean, Sophie excited me. I think it's having tested it a little bit in
That
and out.
sounded bad.
Yeah. So
It's late night.
I think
We
that's
can make
one
the
company
joke.
at least. Yeah. So that excited me. I mean, Robinhood is something which caught my attention. I mean, I'm not saying these companies are like big 10x winner, but I found that these are the companies where we know like okay where the bottom is, where the I mean they have like lower downside than higher upside kind. So they are getting more and more into that kind of territory. There is a always dedicated community that follows them, so you are updated. There are a lot of companies which have me excited. I have mixed thoughts on Roblox and you. Okay, I mean there was a reason I said there was a time I was helping one of the fund invest in one of the Hollywood studios, so I ended up studying a lot of animation technology, what they are doing. So I spent a lot of time understanding Roblox, what they are doing, what Epic is doing. In this particular case, the movies what we build on Unreal Engine, what Unity is doing, and I publish on Unity. I mean they have an excellent product with one of the worst management teams. So the question for me is always is so you don't get perfect investment opportunities at time, but these are the kind of opportunities. I also have one view that during the downturn, fintechs and biotechs were completely obliterated. So once the rate cut starts and we get into this euphoria, these sectors will make a very strong comebacks. So I'm slowly building at least 5 to 10% of my portfolio into biotech. Okay, highly speculative. I mean, things can go horribly wrong also. I published a thread on that. I have investment in Klarna, which is one of the major BNPL platform, which is in private. I have this investment in SpaceX, so definitely looking forward for the SpaceX IPO and Klarna IPO also this year and early the next year. And yes, I know it's happening. Okay, and there are a couple of other sectors. So I think people are too much focused on companies like. Uh, so there are a lot of good companies like CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, Datadog. I think these companies have done pretty good in general. Okay, Snowflake has done pretty good as well. I mean, of course, they have higher multiple. My vote doesn't go to them for investment, but I have tons of respect for it. There are companies I hate with as much passion as I can, like C3AI. Okay, I like their product. They have a decent product. I have to say that part. But what they have versus what their management claims are two different things. Okay, and I know that for sure. I have tested it. Then there are companies which people may not have yet realized, but I have been following them for a few years now. And very, if I get some money this year out liquidation, I probably gonna invest. There is a company called Harness.io. There's a company called Traceable AI. Okay, um, in the AI space, the companies that are coming, I'm very excited about Perplexity in general. I always like companies which have a very focused approach. They say we want to solve this one thing. I always like those companies because in me to business and way of building, it is very important to know what not to do. Okay, so those are the kind of companies, and some of these companies will start having IPOs at some point of time. So yeah, I mean, so fintech to me will make very good comeback. The biotech is always like my indicator of bubbles and tops. At the top of a bubble, you will see biotech companies going IPOs and increasing like 100% in a day or two. That to me, that always biotech is always the late sign. Okay, they always come up late to the party for very simple reason, because they don't have cash flows and the company valuation is mostly driven by the FDA approvals. Fintech, a lot of fintechs have actually managed to go free cash flow positive, and it will reflect in their valuation at some point of time. There was a time when fintech were just growing with venture money, and suddenly the money dried up. They were caught with their pants down. But few of those companies have actually managed to come back. There are few companies which concerns me also, which were everybody's darling during 2021. For example, like this company called Digital Turbine. Everybody was so excited. Um Now, when the digital companies are making comeback, they have not yet able to make that kind of comeback. So I'm really curious what's going on with those kind of things. So my focus is companies which have managed to keep their debt low, which have managed to get their free cash flow positive, and which are at least having some incremental revenue growth. Those are the companies to look in. Very simple framework to reflect. Back to you.
So the final question I want to present to you as we wrap this up is everybody's talking about the potential pullback, right? The Palantir ran up like crazy. The entire tech market has gone like crazy. So the anticipation by a lot of experts, a lot of technical traders that I respect, is that the entire market is due for a slight correction, and it's going to pull back a lot of these plays like Nvidia, like Palantir, like others. It's going to pull back down a little bit towards the uh, 20, 19, $18 per share, which is very likely. So I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a trader, so I don't comment on that, and I don't ask you that question, because since nobody fucking knows. But should this happen, and should the entire market drag Palantir back down to the 18s or 17s, are you going to be loading up like crazy? You're going to be holding? You're going to be slowly DCAing? What are you going to do?
So if and like you said, I mean, nobody knows when the actual pullback will come, and
Nobody.
I agree, because a lot of time I'm seeing, especially in the month of February, companies are moving up like there is no risk attached. This is exactly the kind of a thing I always get a bit concerned. But I mean, companies can stay like that for months, as we have seen in 2021. So I don't know when the pullback, but yes, I'm starting getting a bit touchy on this subject. Is that, yeah, I mean, it could happen. When and how much, I don't know that part. But there are some companies I just not getting along with the pace at which the stock is moving up. That kind of concerns me. I could be wrong. So
SMCI is a good example,
if
by the way.
yeah, SMCI is a good example. Uh, so for example, if Palantir goes back to 18, so think in terms of odds and probabilities. Okay, so let's say by the end of March, Palantir is at $18. Okay, so people who thought at for 25, like we missed the bus, it's an opportunity for few of them. Palantir has never missed the earning because they sandbag a lot, and they always move around 30% at least post earnings. So if I take that frame, I will say that, and at least last four earnings, they're also making like high 52 weeks high. So I would say that okay, next earning, if not, there is no big macro shock, reaching back 25 is a good option. So to me, like if you see 18 to 25, that gives you around more than 33% kind of a return in 4 weeks with reasonably good probability. I'll take that trade any day. This year, my focus is a lot on swing trading. And same thing. I mean, if it is 18, it can go to 11 also. Nobody knows that part. Okay. So if I'm in that point of concern, I would say, okay, if from 18 it can go to 11 and I really want to cover my downside, I'll probably spend $2 a share to buy some options, which is one or two earnings before, because I will say, okay, I need three catalysts to buy an option. There has to be two earnings and there has to be one or two rate cuts. So that looks like September. I say, okay, let me spend that kind of money, because if I'm spending $18, I mean, my threshold is I don't want to lose more than $2. So let me just risk only that money and try. I mean, you kind of balance it either via spread in such a way that it kind of gives you a reasonable amount while you are covering your downside. So that will be my play. Back to you.
You're the only guest I never interrupt mid-sentence. I always get complaints from the audience that I don't let people speak.
Thanks, man.
For some reason, I enjoy listening to you, so I never interrupt you. I don't know why. It's very strange. The viewers on my channel, they know I'm a professional asshole interrupter. But yeah, that was fascinating. One question from the audience I just want to quickly address. It's never too late to buy a good company. To be honest, it's not a Palantir question. Go listen to some of Peter Lynch, very famous lectures. It's never too late to buy a good company. It's always there's always money to be made on good companies. Even Apple or even Microsoft, that now it's a good company. As long as you slowly DCA and you're patient, you'll be fine. As long as you didn't pick a loser, you'll be fine. I don't think there's such thing as too late. Unless you're doing a trade, it's a whole different answer. But I don't trade.
It's a whole different answer. I think what is more important here is that you need to ask question yourself why you are late. Okay, because you are late because you wanted more confirmation on what company does, how market reacts to the news. Okay, I know a lot of people, and I mean the William O'Neill has a whole of this theory which is based on Ken Slim, is always buy higher, sell even higher. He always used to buy companies at their all-time highs or at least 52-week highs. Okay, so if you can explain yourself that okay, I didn't buy it early, but a lot of time you're asking this question also because you are under FOMO. So you have to be honest with yourself that you are asking this question because of FOMO. Okay, and because if you are doing it FOMO, this is one of the worst time. See, today SMCI goes $300 up, tomorrow Bitcoin goes $5,000 up. Okay, then CLH goes up. If you are running FOMO,
euphoria.
Yeah, I mean you will be completely, you will lose your mind. So ask yourself why you are late. Answer that part. I think that will give you an insight yourself that what's the right thing to do at this point. Back to you.
I think with that, we're at the top of the hour. We've been on for 59 minutes and 20 seconds. So I think you promised me an hour, and I know you're busy, so I will let you go. It's getting late over here. It's also getting quite the evening time for you. So thank you so much for stopping by, Sachin. It was a wonderful conversation as always. If you all want to follow Sachin on X, his handle is below. Sachin VATS. Go follow him. He posts some of the best threads on this topic. And it was a pleasure to have you. I would love to do this again. We did it last year. I don't know if we should wait one more year or maybe 6 months, but I would love to have you back on.
Yeah, I think let's not wait for 1 year. I mean, I know a lot of times when I'm under different kind of NDAs and try to avoid speaking publicly. Um, Hopefully, I don't join a full-time job. Okay, if that happens, that restricts my capacity at times. I mean, Tom, I mean, it's my pleasure to listen you. I think during when the COVID started, that's when I started listening you. Okay, there were a lot of things, and when I was changing few things in my investing, I think listening you and a lot of other people, I think the overall, I think the quality of content was very good. It got me thinking. I like your candidness. Okay, no, none of us is perfect, so I don't expect you to be right all the time, and I
No,
don't
I'm
expect
far from.
myself to be right all
I'm
the
a very
time.
flawed individual.
Yeah. So but I like, I mean, I like in general, like how you make the arguments. And to be fair, I mean, if I see your recommendations over last 1.5 year and even 2 years, they are mostly right than wrong. Okay, we are all bound to mix, but I think there were some calls you made last year and I was not sure, okay, why Tom is recommending these now. But when I see the performance of those companies now, like SMCI and CrowdStrike, then I say, okay, I should have
A,
done more research when I listened to him.
yeah, ANET. We did
So I mean,
Arista.
really a pleasure.
Yeah, I
There are
think
few actually. I mean, I think
yeah.
you made some really good calls.
Yeah, we did Arista, we did CrowdStrike, we did SMCI. I also had BG who didn't do so well. Bungie didn't do so well.
That's okay. I mean,
It's
everyone
down
has
like
to make
5%.
yeah, because if you don't not making wrong calls, trust me, you are setting yourself up for a very large drawdown, because it's very
Nobody, no,
difficult
look,
to
nobody shoots
stay
100%.
sane. Yeah, yeah. So to me, like when you make wrong calls, it keeps you sane and grounded. So I don't mind making wrong calls. Okay, I just don't want to lose a lot of money on them. So yeah,
That's a good rule. By the way, I posted this. I asked my team to go back and to check everything we posted from January 2023 to the end of 2023.
yeah.
And basically, so we did one video. So we put the index in there, which is something I always advocate for. So funny enough, Tesla underperformed most of it, which is weird. I didn't. If you ask me in 2023, I would say Tesla is going to be in the top 5, and it's in the bottom 5. Google did nicely. Palantir obviously did nicely. CrowdStrike, Bungie is down. SoFi did nicely. I thought SoFi would break out more. To be honest, I was not thinking it will be still in single digits. SoFi to me is amazing. And Nvidia
So
surprised me because I didn't know Nvidia had so much more gas than they had.
so on relative basis, I don't think Tesla did bad. Let me be very honest with that part. See, the financial tightening and everything,
The
what
crazy
happened with
part
a
is Tesla
lot
that
of
my
EV
portfolio
companies.
did better than this because I was so concentrated with the Palantir, S&P, and Tesla. My
Yeah.
own portfolio did even better than this list.
Yeah. So for example, like you see that companies are struggling to be profitable in EV. See, the frame you look, you should try to see the frame which was in 2020. 2020 was a different year. Tesla
Oh
is
yeah,
a profitable EV. They are making more and more. They are, few years back people were saying, oh, they will not make semi, they will not make Cybertruck. Both things are in public.
they did.
I mean, world is still moving towards EV. And my argument about EV has nothing to do with climate. Okay. I mean, of course, I'm a very pro climate person, but I'm not saying that people will move towards more EV because of climate. My understanding is people who wanted to move to EV because of climate, they have already moved.
Now
People
it's
who
just a
will now
financial
move to
decision.
EV
It's a
because
financial decision.
because it's just a better value for money.
Yeah, it's a financial decision.
Okay, so who has better chance to improve?
Cheaper to maintain and it's cheaper to run and it's more fun to drive. It's very simple mathematics.
Yeah, and I mean, the cost of ownership will keep coming lower for EV related to ICE. And one thing people don't realize about ICE is that if you remove 15% of ICE capacity globally, whole industry is unprofitable. from that point on.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to
Think
remove
of
ICE. You just have to remove
yeah.
15% of ICE. The whole industry is unprofitable from that point onwards.
Think about what is
Okay,
the
so
ecosystem like. It's not just the cars, because you the entire ecosystem of the service and the parts industry and the gas stations. There's an ecosystem that exists around these
everything.
vehicles. Yeah, it's a huge,
See, that's why, like
huge.
I said, I mean, like Elon has built something where no road existed. There was no building
Yeah,
block. He built
yeah.
everything. Okay,
I
so yeah, I
remember,
mean,
Sachin, I
so
was
when
in
I
a expo in Germany, and I was a medical expo with the medical devices company, uh, and we were going, and the guy who was leading the meeting was a guy from Bain, from Boston, and he was super
okay,
smart. You know, these, yeah, super, like, different level. A genius guy, and he was explaining stuff and blah blah blah. And then he said, "You know what this is?" And then I look, I see this like beautiful sports car, like a little tiny sports car. I said, "What the fuck is this?" He said, "That's an electric car." I said, "No." That was like a long, like 10 years ago. Like, what? I said, "Yeah, this is an electric car, and it goes like super fast. It's like a 4-second car." I said, "What?" And then, because in my mind and in everybody else's mind 10 years ago, an electric car is a golf cart.
yeah,
It's not
I mean that
it's a supercar. That's the craziness of Elon, bro.
yeah, I mean, see, in when I was in Nigeria, one of my friend was, so he was the CEO of a stallion group. Just to give everybody concept, I mean, a stallion group was kind of a dealer or owner of a lot of cars from high brand to, they were supplying 65% of car in that region across countries, and they were running a very large portion of fisheries and rice and all that. So they were like really big guys. And we used to, his office was in a above a showroom of cars. I mean, he will drive a Porsche. Of course, in Nigeria, you get drivers. I mean, easily. You are not supposed to drive yourself a lot of times. So I'll go and we talk about a lot of, and we'll have a discussion. And those time I was like very pro EV, and he was still like, because he was in industry, and like most of industry was still not sure whether the point of EV is reached there. That guy now leading a major EV startup in India. So they're really good people, I know, that who understand this and who were like kind of a shaky. A lot of people have actually turned within industry because they see it as a way to disrupt how a lot of things are done. Okay, because see, you need to agree, like big auto was like kind of this cartel and this. So for example, Tom, you go back to 2006, and if you have to buy a car, the way you look at this car is either you're looking for hypercar. If you're not looking for hypercar, you will look for German car. If you're not looking for German car, you will look for Japanese car. And if you're really not looking for Japanese car, you might buy a gas guzzler from a US. Okay, and if you're a very patriotic European who is not able to buy this expensive car, you will buy some shitty European car, Peugeot or Fiat or something like that. I mean, that was the framework. You will never consider
Stellantis got
buying
better.
an Indian car or a, yeah, no, or a Chinese car. So you see now, but if you are talking in EV, people will consider buying a Chinese car before they consider even buying a German car. So you see the power play, and there is a very simple rule of power which is explained by a lot of people, is that how you change the power scenario. You change power scenario not by reducing the power of one person, by creating new sources of power. Okay, and that's how democracies are built also. So what happened was, like China using the leverage of EV, and by inviting Tesla in, and by building all the supply chain from raw materials, they kind of managed to change this perception that we can actually deliver you a very good quality EV. So you cannot beat them on pricing, you cannot beat them on quality, and that becomes quite a very deadly combo. Of course, if you are not Elon, I mean, that is something you really have to work it out. Now you see the brilliance of Elon. Elon built every brick in that building. He owns so he has FSD, he has, Tesla has their own insurance, which is data driven. They have their supercharger network, which everyone use. They're using their storage technology. I mean, they're now going into Optimus because they're building a portion of their AI was kind of an AGI, which they think they can expand. They also went into a kind of a chip, okay, I mean, with all the dojo thing. And I'm pretty sure that he wants to move this dojo thing forward. He's just pulling things backward with everything else going on in industry at this particular point, and especially after the recent Delaware court verdict. But that's how, I mean, like, that's how he built things. I mean, Apple was not able to do it. Even Google is struggling to. I mean, these are like giants. These are like cash machines. They can get anything at any time, and they are struggling to put a product against this. So yeah, man. I mean, so the whole industry dynamics is changing at a very fast pace. In 15 years down the line, this industry will be very different. Back to you.
Somebody commented when I interrupted you multiple times a second ago. I see what he means by interrupting now, because I was as I'm waking up, because it's getting earlier and earlier, so I'm getting back to myself. I'm getting to the interrupting mode. So it's a good time to cap this off. Sachin, thank you so much, guys. Go follow him. Go follow him on X. He has a phenomenal mind. You're missing out if you're not. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll do it soon enough. Sachin, thanks again, buddy, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the invitation, Tom. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.